Uh, Good looking, don't you think? Well, they're my exercise shoes. And my wife told me I need to get two pairs so I don't wear out one at a time. So I have the orange ones and I have the blue ones. And a funny thing happened. I took the district card to the car wash, and I'm sitting there waiting for them to finish. And a guy comes up to me, and he stands in front of me, and he looks at my shoes. And he says, "When you're done with those shoes and you turn them into Goodwill, will you let me know?" "Sure. And how will I reach you?" "I'll keep watching at Goodwill." So he thinks they're good shoes. I have more to share about the shoes in just a moment. Let's talk about revitalization, because all of this fits under the revitalization understanding. First of all, revitalization is a new ministry focus of our district, begun since the last convention. The green button. Not that green button. The big one. The big green button, right? That one right there? I pressed it 3 times. Oh, we have action. It's probably your energy level right now, right? We're working with some assumptions, and the first assumption is every congregation needs revitalization. As I travel from circuits to circuits and visit with pastors, one of the first questions I ask is, what needs revitalization in your congregation? Every pastor can identify at least one area of congregational ministry where revitalization is needed. The other assumption that we work with is it's one size does not fit all. Like shoes, one size does not fit all. We therefore offer 4 models with flexibility in adjustment. Well, I should say we started with 4. We've added 3 new wrinkles to it because of the needs of the congregation. We operate under the assumption that we next need to exercise good stewardship of both opportunity and resources. And especially, it's in fulfillment of equipping the saints for the work of the ministry, because revitalization makes new things possible. The green button. Maybe the batteries are going. This is a paraphrase. Tony Cook, the U.S. Missions Director for Lutheran Hour Ministries, is the one who coined this particular translation. You've seen it before. It happens to be one of my favorite Bible passages because it helps us to give focus individually as to our calling. We are not called to convince, cajole, or convert. We are simply called, 1, to revere Christ as Lord, and prepared to gently and respectfully give the reason for the hope that lies within us. 1 Peter 3:15. Now about the shoes. Gary talked about awaken and activate. Ron Rarer, my colleague at the time, and I attended a workshop and went through a 3-day workshop on awaken and activate. That's probably 5 years ago. I didn't have these shoes then. And one of the tasks was, as you assess your own sense of who you are and how the Lord has blessed you over your lifespan, you identify some things that are patterns in your life. And the pattern in my life is I walk. And I actually used these shoes both yesterday morning and this morning to take a walk in the early morning, and I saw a few of you doing the same thing. Good job. It's important for me to walk. For one, it gives me prayer time, and secondly, I need the exercise. I determined at that point, with a lot of encouragement, that I ought to make that my project. that that would be the way in which I would carry out my life's calling. Not professional life's calling, but my life's calling as a Christian. In fact, a couple of people in that group really gave me a hard time when I started to describe how I would do that as a part of my work responsibility. And they said, no, 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 you're going the wrong way. So I determined that I live in La Mesa, and La Mesa is properly named because there are hardly any flat places in La Mesa, right? Right. Tried to build a church building on that, yeah, right. Pastor Berkey is a pastor at Christ La Mesa. And so I figured, well, that's going to be good aerobic exercise. So I started in that process. And I determined that I needed to walk at least a mile every morning. And I wanted to accomplish a second thing. I wanted to get to know my neighbors outside of church membership, to get to know people I'd never met before, and just kind of connect with people. So I set a path. And this path is on one very long cul-de-sac. And it just so happens at the end of this cul-de-sac is a fellow about my age, single. He and his dog live on this beautiful home that has this overlook over the canyon. And I got to know him, and his name was John. And we got to talking, and every time I'd see him, he'd be out with his dog taking a little walk, so we were about the right time frame. But he wasn't the only John on the block. There was another one that I call Second John, who was about halfway down. And now I have two Johns. And it so happened, really very unexpectedly, that as I was taking a walk one particular morning, I first encountered First John. And I said to him, "How are you doing today, John?" And he says, "I'm having a little trouble." And so he began to feel confident about talking about it. And I asked him, "May I pray with you?" And he said, "I was hoping you were going to ask." So I prayed with him. Now I'm coming back up the cul-de-sac to the next stand. And the Second John comes bounding out of his house. He's younger. And he comes bounding out of his house, and he says, "Can I talk with you?" And I said, "Sure. What do you want to talk about?" He says, "My neighbor." And he wanted to talk about how he's going to approach his neighbor. And he described how he was going to do, and I said, "How do you think that neighbor is going to receive you?" And he said, "I have no idea." And so I asked him if it would be all right to pray with him. And he said, "Why, of course." That kind of surprised me. So we prayed about the heart of the man he was going to talk to, who is his neighbor, who's violated some of the property issues. Now, those are not big deals, but there are some things that I've learned about it. First of all, because I'm regular about doing it, I've developed a relationship with people, some of whom I don't yet know their names, but they wave at me anyhow, just by being intentional. Button. So being intentional means you do it with regularity, you walk the same path. It means you greet the people and you work hard at getting to know their names and remembering. Secondly, the issue of being available. That means you stop when they come down the street and you wave at them and you say hello. You make yourself approachable, if you will. And it also means that you need to develop a plan. Doing it happenstance doesn't seem to me works very well, at least in my life. If I have to do it intentionally, and if I have to be available, it means I need to have a plan to make that work. Do you think you could do that? It doesn't have to be a walk. And by the way, these shoes are taken, they're not available. But it can be another activity. If you go through the awaken and activate process, you discover what that is. and how the Lord has prepared you to do a way of connecting with people wherever you choose to go. And in doing so, you build a friendship and a relationship, and people start to ask you, would you pray for me? Well, that's a pretty good open door, isn't it? So then I now have a way in which I can work with them and talk about matters of spirit and introduce them to Jesus. The key thing is, do it. It's critical that we do it, that we find out how God has blessed us and understand how we can take those experiences and use them for the benefit of those with whom we have some regular opportunity to have contact, and take advantage of it. And I want to again emphasize, you need to be intentional, you need to be available, you need to develop a plan, and then do it. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. President Stoddard, you're done, I'm not. I want to say to you again, thank you. I have a long-standing history with Larry and Linda because he came as a vicar to my home congregation.
Yep.
That was a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Just so happened that my father was the head elder.
And my barber.
And his barber, yes. So I was going to get to that, of course. Yeah.
That's right.
Got to have a pro. So I got to know Larry and then Linda early and watched him grow. And then to have the opportunity to have just joined the district staff in 2000, and then he was then elected as our new district president. So we've had that 18-year relationship, as did Rachel.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
It's been a joy.
That's right.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.